It's time for our semi-annual solar update here, Christina. If you
right.
If you have any questions about your solar, this is a good time to call in, 490-5858.
Do not wait until 10:45 to call.
Yeah.
Like, call now.
Or 10:58.
Right, because that does you no good.
Chris
So
Moran
call
is
now.
here, Solar Negotiators. We're going to get an update on the state of the solar industry and how you need to keep up with it. So if you're in that market, this is your opportunity to ask your question.
So we've talked with you a lot, Chris, about NEM 3.0 and the changes that come. But this has to do with NEM 1 and 2, and it's called non-export add-on solar systems. So what is this? What does it do? And I think I'm not a NEM 2er. So what does that mean for me?
Absolutely. So, most people, and I would say 99% of people who already have solar in California are under NEM 1 or NEM 2. And when they made the decision to go solar, they didn't need batteries. They could just push all that power to the grid and get full credit for it. And that showed up on their bill, and it made it really easy to make the decision and not worry about when you used your power. Non-export add-on systems are just what they sound like. It's a new system that doesn't send any power to the grid, and it allows you to keep that protection of that NEM 1 or NEM 2 grandfather status, which is really valuable. So we have to install it in a certain way, but it allows you to add panels and oftentimes paired with some batteries and get any true-up bill that you might still have down to close to zero.
So you're telling me that I could get away from PG&E?
That is the goal for most folks who give us a call asking about this product and service. Absolutely.
Yeah, they want to get off the grid.
Absolutely. Yep.
So PG&E is your best salesman.
The more they
After
raise
July,
rates,
it sounds really good to me. Okay.
Yeah. The alternative for solar and batteries becomes more attractive the higher the rates go.
Now, you mentioned July.
July's bill was ridiculous for me.
What kind of feedback have you got about July bills from people?
Yeah, especially because it was so hot so early this summer.
Yes.
We had how many days above 105?
I made my husband call you guys.
Yeah.
Because the bill was surprising, and I've got solar, and it was hot.
Yeah.
It was hot.
A lot of folks don't realize that once it gets over 100, it can take 2 to 2.5 times as much power to cool your house to the same temperature as compared to 95 or 98 degrees because it's trying to pull all of that heat out of
I just think about if I didn't have solar, what that bill would have been.
Correct.
Now, when it's hotter, does that give you more energy into your system?
It's actually the opposite. While the sunshine itself is good, the hotter the panels get, due to resistance, you actually lose some of that productive value.
There's like a diminishing return.
Correct.
Where is the sweet spot?
Is it like 95? Is there like a temperature? Yeah.
Usually early May when it's not too hot quite yet, but the sun is getting close to its peak for the season. Those are the best days typically. So
there you produce the most and you benefit.
Yes,
basically
oftentimes
the bill is zero.
Sending power to the grid and getting credit for it if you're under NEM 2 or NEM 1. Correct.
So I'm guessing then, so this was clarification on, so when did this clarification, I guess, come about on NEM 1 and 2 and these add-on systems?
Yeah, so about 6 months ago, the utilities had to approve certain configurations. And without getting too crazy into the equipment setup, there are 3 or 4 ways you can accomplish this, but they all have to do with ensuring that the system doesn't push power to the grid. And most of them, your existing system is a standalone system. It's not touched. We leave it alone. It's there to produce, send power to the grid, or sometimes self-consume. But you want that new non-export system to consume all of the power you're using during the day or into the evening if you have batteries.
And so it stores that energy for you that then you use, and the first system really isn't being used too much then.
It becomes more of a passive system.
Yeah.
It's pushing that power so you can maximize those credits.
That sounds interesting.
How do these battery systems operate now in terms of how much they can store? In terms of days or something, can you put it like that?
Yeah, run times is really specific to and is defined with how heavy of the loads you're running, right? If you're running your air conditioner, that battery is going to go down real fast. Most battery systems these days are between 10 and 30 kilowatt hours hours of storage. And if you're running just the TV and the fridge and a few lights, you could run potentially indefinitely so long as they're still charged by the time the sun comes up the next day and starts recharging
But of course, in the summer with the air conditioning, so is it
Correct.
Is it hard to get? Can you save a week's worth?
Not on a standalone basis on one day. Most of these batteries, like I said, will discharge on the AC because most air conditioners are going to pull 4 to 7 kilowatt hours depending on their tonnage. But again, if you're conscious of your consumption habits, you can stretch that battery into the evening or the following day.
Are there subsidies still?
There are. The tax credit is still in effect. It's 30%, and 30 cents on the dollar is a big chunk of the investment. It really helps the payback.
We got a phone call for
Sure.
you, Chris. So Chris Moran is here, Solar Negotiators, 490-5858 if you've got a question for him, and Leonard does. Leonard, you're on KMJ.
Chris, I've been contacted by several companies such as Sunrun in regards to saying that the government is giving solar systems with battery packs and everything else free. Is that any truth to that?
Hang on there, Leonard. We have a little technical problem with Chris. We're trying to resolve. You got it? He's asking about the government. What did you say, Leonard? Free subsidies that you're talking about?
They're. I've had them come to my door and offer, basically, put up a system that doesn't cost me nothing to put it up, doesn't cost me anything to rent it, doesn't cost me anything. All I do is put it on the battery pack, and I guess it goes back to the grid. But the government and everything is transferable if I sell my house, and it's free gratis. Basically, what they're trying to tell me.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there are a lot of companies that use those tactics in order to get into the door, and it really kind of leaves a stain on the industry because there's so many companies trying to do it right. There are subsidies available that can reduce the cost of the system, and oftentimes, if you look at it from the perspective of one of these solar systems can get your bill down to a low enough amount, and your monthly payment may be lower than that savings, which allows you to say, "Hey, this doesn't feel like it's costing me anything out of pocket, but there's certainly a cost." And I would be very cautious, engaging with companies that are using those tactics.
So you're saying they'll say they'll put it in. It's not going to cost you anything. That's what they're telling you.
Right.
You're not buying that.
No,
What they're telling me, right? Exactly.
Yep.
Okay, Leonard. Sounds like a bad deal.
Yeah, exactly.
Sounds too good to be true.
Too good to be true.
Yeah.
Well, what do you recommend to people who are being approached by people coming to their door? Is there anything you can ask them to kind of figure out what they're up to?
Yeah, I would ask what the contractor's license number is for the company they're selling for. You can also ask for their home improvement salesperson registration number, which will allow you to do some research on the company. I always recommend when people are ready to start evaluating solar as an option, do some research, talk to friends and family who have had positive experiences, and really start there. Positive reviews online are always a great kind of indication that the company you're looking for or looking at is trustworthy. And get multiple quotes. Never start with the first person you talk to.
Well, like somebody says, like he said, it costs you nothing.
Right.
We'll put it in. Everything's free.
Yeah.
What's really going to happen if you let them start their business?
Well, that's the fine print is going to tell you what will happen, and oftentimes these companies will install sufficient solar panels and not sufficient battery storage. So you've got a lot of that power being produced. It escapes to the grid under NEM 3. You get almost no credit for it. So that's why the battery ratio and having enough of a reservoir to capture that power during the day so you can use it at night is so important.
So they're going to get in. They're going to slip under the door, get into your house, and you're going to end up paying somehow.
Yeah, and
right?
I think that the general public has become more aware. Solar's been around. The industry's kind of matured a little bit. Oftentimes they've heard stories from friends or family where things didn't go well, and so they're a little more conscious about the decision-making process and doing their diligence.
Yeah.
Should we take another phone call here and go to Madeira? Jim, you're on KMJ.
Hey, good morning. Hey, Chris, I'm just wondering, when is the best time to clean a solar panel as far as during the summertime? Because some of these hot days, it seems like maybe something would crack or something would happen. When's the best time?
Yeah, certainly. We always recommend, first of all, if you're going to clean them yourself, be very cautious and never use hard water from your well. Early in the morning or late in the evening is fine. Our teams that clean systems on a daily basis will actually use water that's already heated up a little bit so that the temperature differential is not extreme. Cool water hitting hot panels.
So that cracks or
Right.
something?
And it's very uncommon. This is very strong tempered glass, so we don't see cracking very often. But it's certainly, you want to be mindful of the temperature of the water.
Now the panels, you have to replace them at some point, I would assume, right?
You know, fortunately, the modules themselves will last many decades.
Really?
In fact, most manufacturers provide an 85% production warranty at year 25. So you think a quarter of a century's gone by and you're still producing at 85%. Oftentimes, the considerations are needing to remove and replace the roof underneath the panels, or the inverter that is tied to the system has a higher frequency of failure, usually every 15 to 20 years, depending on its age and make.
Interesting. All right, Stan, you're on KMJ. Good morning.
Hello, Chris. How are you this morning?
Yes, sir. How you doing, Stan?
I've been a customer of yours since 2019.
Excellent.
Starting this past May, I tried to get your salesman to hook me up with additional panels and a Tesla battery.
Okay.
I have the Tesla battery as a wall decoration, waiting on somebody to come finish the process.
It's since May?
I was told I could not add panels because of the NIM 2, NIM 3, whatever. If you knew 6 months ago that the program had changed, why are your salesmen not aware of it?
Certainly. That's a great question. The original configurations for the non-export add-ons were being clarified earlier in the year, and then we began waiting on the utility companies to provide their final confirmation that that these systems could be interconnected. So it sounds like you may have fallen right in that kind of in-between place. I'm happy to take a look at the circumstances of your install. It may yet still be an option. I appreciate your patience on that. And Stan, can I have your last name, or you're welcome to call into our office, and I'm happy to chat with you.
Here, let's do this. We'll have Gabe grab him and get his name and phone number for you, first and last name. And so stay on the line there, Stan, and I'll have our producer, Gabe, work it out with you, and we'll get Chris your information.
Okay, let's go to Mike. You're on KMJ.
Okay, so I got a pretty large system about 2 years ago. Everything's working great. But I purchased it for a family of 5 when we were at COVID, at home all the time. Going through a divorce. I'm there alone most of the time now. So I am literally producing, 10 times as much energy as I use. I'm going to sell the house probably. How does that, $55,000 investment affect the value of the home, or does it?
Certainly. So if you went solar 2 years ago, you should have 18 years left of the grandfather protection, and that's tied to the service ID of the home, not you as the owner. So the new buyer will take advantage of that remaining 18 years, which is extremely valuable. The equipment itself oftentimes will have a residual value of between 30 to 40% of the original purchase price within the first 5 years. This is the time where I have to say I'm not an appraiser, things like that. But that is what we've seen in real estate transactions and the feedback we're getting from customers. So you should see a nice value tied to the home when you're ready to sell it, but it's never quite as high as the original purchase price.
Hey, we're just about out of time here. Let me ask you this. This is California. Mm-hmm. Seems like we're kind of screwed up here. How are these California rules? Do they make sense?
They for so many reasons they feel like they don't, but they do. Okay. You have Hawaii and you have Germany and you have some other countries and states that were really early adopters of solar. Too much solar on the grid is unsustainable. And so California had such rapid growth for so long, eventually there needed to be a change. And so the incentive to install batteries now is actually helping to moderate the grid. Now, should that be a homeowner's job to help the utilities moderate the grid and the distribution of all this power? We would all say no, but this is a logical approach to that problem.
All right, Chris, thanks so much for your time this morning. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, Chris Moran, Solar Negotiators. And of course, remind everybody, how can they get in touch with you?
They can give us a call anytime at 447-1557.
All right, Chris Moran, thanks again.